Today, we are diving into an ancient playbook for life, one that's packed with practical wisdom that's been studied for thousands of years, the Book of Proverbs. We're going to break down what it is, where it came from, and why its advice still hits home today. Let's get into it.
Right out of the gate, the book gives us its master key. Seriously, this one sentence unlocks the entire thing. It sets the stage for every piece of advice that follows, framing it all within a very specific worldview. We're going to keep coming back to this line. So before we get into all the nitty-gritty advice, we got to understand the context. Where did this book come from and what was it actually trying to do? Well, the credit for this collection goes mostly to King Solomon, supposedly written when he was at the absolute peak of his wisdom. And it's not a story with a beginning, middle, and end. Think of it more like a greatest hits album of condensed truths. They're short, punchy, almost like ancient tweets, designed to stick in your head and be useful in pretty much any situation. And the book doesn't mess around when it comes to its purpose. It's a straight-up how-to guide. It's meant to teach you the skills, wisdom, discipline, understanding you need to live a life that's fair, just, and on the level. It's basically a training manual for building good character. So how does this manual make its case? Well, it all circles back to that one core idea from the very beginning. To really get what Proverbs is saying, we have to start where it starts, with the fear of the Lord. Now, I know what you're thinking. That phrase, fear of the Lord, can sound a little scary. But according to the text, it's not about being terrified of God. It's a term for a life lived in awe and deep respect, a life of devotion. And getting that distinction is absolutely crucial to understanding everything else in the book. And this is where the source material draws a really clear line in the sand. It makes a sharp distinction between the kind of wisdom it's talking about and, let's say, human wisdom, the stuff we learn just from our own experiences. The text says that because its wisdom comes from God and is built on that fear of the Lord, it's on a whole other level. It's described as being life-giving. And this point gets hammered home again and again. The core belief here is that real, true wisdom isn't something humans invent or discover on our own. It's a gift, and it comes from a divine source. Okay, so if wisdom is a gift, what are you supposed to do with it? Is it just some abstract idea? Well, this next part reframes the whole concept. It's not just an idea, it's a skill you can learn. This is so cool. In the original language, the word for wisdom is the same one used to describe the expert skill of a master artisan or a goldsmith or a sailor who knows how to read the stars in the sea. So a wise person isn't just a brainiac who knows a lot of facts. They're a master craftsman in the art of living. They've mastered the skill of navigating life God's way. The text even breaks this skill down into a kind of toolkit. You've got wisdom, which is the big picture view. Then there's understanding, which is the ability to tell right from wrong. And finally, knowledge, which is all about how you actually apply this stuff in your day-to-day life.
And to make this all even more real, the author uses this brilliant literary tool. They personify wisdom. It's not just an it. Wisdom becomes a she, a character, often called Lady Wisdom, who is out in the streets calling out, offering guidance to anyone who's willing to listen.
And whoa, this Lady Wisdom does not pull any punches. Now, this isn't God mocking people. This is wisdom itself, laughing at those who heard her advice and chose to ignore it. It's a really powerful, kind of shocking way to show the natural, painful consequences of choosing foolishness.
So let's bring this down to earth. How do you actually practice this skill? The book gets super practical, pointing to specific parts of your life that you need to actively manage and protect. And the book makes it crystal clear where it all starts, from the inside out. The heart is described as the source, the wellspring of your entire life. Your thoughts, your words, your actions, they all flow from it. That's why guarding your inner world is presented as job number one. And from that one central command, the advice expands outward. If the heart is the source, then its influence shows up everywhere else. You're told to guard your mouth, your eyes, and your feet, your path. The idea is simple. A well-guarded heart will lead to disciplined words, a focused vision, and a steady, stable life. The book often uses these incredibly vivid examples to make its point. For instance, here's part 1 of a warning against adultery. It doesn't pretend the temptation isn't real. In fact, it describes it as being alluring, sweet like honey and smooth like oil. But then, bam, the other shoe drops. That initial sweetness turns into something incredibly bitter, and that smooth speech becomes a weapon.
This pattern, showing the short-term appeal versus the long-term destructive reality, is a classic teaching method all throughout Proverbs. But it's not all doom and gloom and warnings. The book also paints these beautiful, positive pictures. This metaphor, drink water from your own cistern, is this poetic way of encouraging contentment and faithfulness within marriage. It's described as something private, precious, and a gift to be cherished. And when you take all this advice, the warnings, the skills, the metaphors, it all boils down to one simple, profound choice that, according to the book, every single person has to make. This is the bottom line of the entire book. There are two paths, and only two. There's the path of the wise, the one that leads to life and peace, and then there's the path of the foolish, which leads to ruin and being uprooted. The book is very clear that at any given moment, you are walking on one of these two roads. That's it. It's a binary choice. There's no third option, no middle ground. And so this ancient guide lays it all out. The principles, the practical advice, the consequences. And then it turns to you, the reader, and leaves you with this one final, unavoidable question. After all is said and done, which path will you choose to walk?